My niece mouthed, "We don't sit with people like you." Everyone laughed. I just shrugged, took my son's hand, and walked out. A little later, Dad texted, "Payments due tomorrow, right?" I replied, "Not my concern." The next day brought a single message that turned their laughter into panic. I knew I shouldn't have gone. My gut told me not to, but I let my son talk me into it. He misses his cousins. That was the only reason we showed up at my sister's new house for the family dinner. She had just moved into the place a few weeks earlier, all thanks to a down payment that mysteriously came from a friend. That friend was me. She never said thank you, not once, just started posting like she earned it herself. Captions about new beginnings and hard work paying off. Meanwhile, I was the one who helped fix her credit, negotiated the lease, and wired the exact amount she needed to close. And I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because she's my sister, and I thought that still meant something. The house was staged like a model home. All beige and gold marble countertops, candles that had never been lit. She greeted us like we were guests at some open house, not family. Her kids ran past us. No hugs, no hi, just chaos. Mine stood there holding the little box of cookies he picked out for them at Target earlier. He asked me if he should still give it to them. I told him no. We walked into the dining room. My brother and his wife were already halfway through a bottle of wine. My dad was nursing his second glass of bourbon, and my mom barely looked up. The usual suspects. There was always this unspoken alliance among them, one I never got the memo for. I used to think I was imagining it, that maybe I was too sensitive. But that night made everything crystal clear. My son and I sat at the far end of the table. He opened up his iPad, showing one of the cousins a game he'd been working on. He's brilliant with tech, always building stuff I don't even understand. He was excited. You could see it in the way he talked. Then the cousin, my niece, leaned in. She mouthed the words slowly like she wanted to make sure I saw it. "We don't sit with people like you." Then she looked at the others and the laughter started. That kind of laughter that's not loud but sharp, like they were all in on something. I glanced at my sister. She was sipping her wine, eyes straight ahead like she hadn't seen anything. But she did. She always sees. I didn't react. Didn't ask questions. I reached for my son's hand and told him we were leaving. He looked at me confused. I didn't explain. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The room went quiet when we stood up. I didn't look back. We walked straight out. We were in the car about to leave when my phone buzzed. A message from my dad. "Payment tomorrow, right?" I stared at it. The entitlement in those 3 words, like nothing had happened. Like they could humiliate me, treat my son like trash, and still expect the money to roll in like clockwork. I typed back, "Not my problem." No emojis, no punctuation. The next morning, I only sent one message. Not to the group chat, not even to my sister. Just one person, one message. That was all it took. That tiny sentence and everything started unraveling. They thought I would come crawling back, that I'd eventually cave. Apologize, pretend like I misunderstood. They had no idea what I'd already been planning. The message I sent that morning was clean and final. Lease transfer starts today. No punctuation, no explanation, just the kind of sentence that hits harder because it doesn't beg for attention. I sent it to my sister's husband directly. Not in the family group chat, not copy to her, just him. He saw it within 2 minutes. Read it. Nothing back. They always assumed I wouldn't actually go through with anything, that I'd make threats or set boundaries and then quietly fall back into line like I always had. That's what people like them count on. Silence from the ones they've used. Less than an hour later, she called twice. I didn't answer. Then the text came. "What is this? Why are you acting like this? We need to talk. This is over a child." I kept my phone face down and made pancakes for my son. He was watching a coding tutorial on YouTube, completely unaware of the drama unraveling behind the scenes. I liked it that way. I wanted him to grow up knowing peace didn't come from pleasing people. It came from knowing when to leave the table. By noon, the dealership had called to confirm the transfer process. I told them I wanted to initiate it within the week. I could hear the smile in the rep's voice when he said the remaining payments would be shifted to the new primary signer. I asked them to mail the paperwork to the house directly. Let her explain that one to her husband. The group chat started buzzing by late afternoon. First, it was my brother, predictably. "You really pulling some dramatic solo act again over what a joke." I left the chat without a word. I knew they weren't used to that. Usually, I'd argue, defend myself, try to get anyone, to understand where I was coming from. But this time, I decided to do it differently, let the silence speak for once. That night, I took my son out for dinner, just the two of us. We got burgers and root beer floats and didn't talk about family. He asked if we were still going to Grandma's for Thanksgiving. I told him, maybe not this year. He said, okay, and went back to his fries. At 8:42 p.m., I got a message from my mom. Your father said his car didn't work for the utility bill again. Can you fix it before the shut-off? No question mark. Like it wasn't even a request. Like it was just something I needed to handle like always. Except I'd already shut off the autopay on his account that morning. I stared at the message, then closed it without answering. Let them feel it. Let them realize that the things they dismissed me for being organized, being independent, knowing how to manage money were the very things that had been holding their lives together. For years, I'd been the one quietly keeping everyone afloat, helping with deposits, co-signing leases, setting up payments, covering shortfalls, buying last-minute Christmas gifts for nieces and nephews so they wouldn't notice their parents forgot again. I never made a big deal out of it. I never even kept a list, but they did. Of my mistakes, my boundaries, my weird energy. The next morning, I got a voicemail from my sister. She was trying to sound calm, but I could hear the panic tucked between every word. She said they'd talked about it, and maybe they should all get together soon, just the adults, to clear the air. They wanted a reset. It was happening faster than I thought. They thought I'd cave, that I'd break under the guilt, that I couldn't handle being the one who walked away. They had no idea I'd already been planning this for months, and I hadn't even touched my dad's insurance yet. By the time the lease paperwork landed in their mailbox, they were already unraveling. I didn't need to ask. I could feel it. The silence from my sister's end was different now. Not smug or dismissive like before. It was the kind of silence people slip into when they're realizing the ground beneath them isn't as stable as they pretended. When the safety net is suddenly gone and they're trying to act like they're not falling, I wasn't rushing anything. I knew how this worked. You take away the structure quietly and let them feel the weight of it one piece at a time. First came my dad's text. My bank card's not working. Can you check what's wrong? He still didn't realize I'd taken my name off the account as the manager. It wasn't even malicious. I just didn't want my name tied to people who saw me as a walking wallet. The same man who couldn't be bothered to look at me during dinner suddenly needed my help to pay for his water bill. I didn't reply. That same day, my sister posted a photo of her daughters in their matching fall outfits. All smiles, pumpkin patch, apple cider captions about family being everything. I scrolled right past it. An hour later, I got a Venmo request from her for $210. The note for Halloween stuff. You said you'd help, remember? That's what hit me, that you said you'd help. No question, no if you're able. Just a cold invoice from someone who used to call me her best friend in family group text. I declined it and blocked her. No explanation, no dramatics, just done. Then came the email from my brother's wife. She titled it, "Let's Clear the Air." Like we were business partners in a bad merger. I didn't open it. She'd been one of the loudest laughers at that dinner. Now she wanted peace. Not interested. Instead, I opened my finance spreadsheet, the one I never showed anyone, the one I updated every time I sent money for someone's emergency or birthday or unexpected car trouble. The total was staggering. I sat there in my kitchen looking at the numbers and laughed out loud. I never kept it to hold over them. I kept it because no one else ever did. Groceries for my sister during her maternity leave, $1,300 over 3 months. My brother's dental surgery COI, $420. Dad's heating bill during that snowstorm in 21. $268. Toys, gifts, and clothing for holidays. When they forgot, I stopped counting. They always made me feel like I was lucky to be around them, like I should be grateful to be tolerated. Meanwhile, I'd been holding the scaffolding for a structure that would have collapsed years ago. Sunday morning, I got a call from my sister. Not her phone, her husband's. I answered. She didn't even say hello. He jumped right in. Said she thought we were family. Said the girls didn't mean anything by it. Said I was making a big deal over something small. She even slipped in a "you've always been a little dramatic." Like that would soften me somehow. Like that wasn't the exact kind of thing I'd heard from her for the last 20 years. I asked her if she remembered exactly what her daughter said at dinner. Silence. Then she didn't mean it. They're just kids. I told her I didn't mean it either. When I paid her car insurance or fixed her resume, or pretended to believe the baby shower gift she said was from all of them wasn't actually something I picked out, wrapped, and paid for. She hung up. That night, my dad sent the longest message I've ever received from him. Paragraphs. Family doesn't cut each other off. Money comes and goes, but blood doesn't. You're teaching your son the wrong lessons. I read the whole thing once, then I turned off my phone. My son and I stayed up making caramel apples in the kitchen. It got messy. We used too much chocolate, he laughed. Told me that one of his cousins used to call him weird when they thought he couldn't hear. He asked if that's why we weren't going to grandma's anymore. I said yes. He said okay. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guilty for choosing peace over people. They weren't angry yet. Not really. Not the way they were going to be. That started when the insurance company called and told my dad his auto policy had been canceled because the auto pay was under my name. It started with a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I was stirring pasta sauce with one hand and my curiosity got the better of me. It was a man from my dad's insurance company. Polite but clearly uncomfortable. He wanted to confirm a policy cancellation. I told him I hadn't canceled anything. I just stopped paying. The difference was technical. He went quiet for a second, then said my dad's policy had fully lapsed 6 days ago. No payments, no renewal, no grace period left. He said it like he expected me to fix it on the spot. I told him I didn't manage that account anymore and hung up. Not even 20 minutes later, I got a text from my brother. What the hell did you do to Dad's insurance? No greeting, no context. Just an accusation as if I hadn't spent the last few years quietly keeping their lives stitched together like some off-brand Cinderella with a checking account. Then came the follow-up. His truck got towed today. The cops pulled him over for a busted taillight, ran the tag, and said there was no insurance. Now he's stranded. Was I supposed to feel guilty? Because honestly, I hadn't planned any of that. I didn't call the cops, I didn't cancel anything, I just stopped paying. My card was off the account, and that was it. But of course, the fallout landed on him because no one else ever paid attention. My mom probably ignored the emails from the insurance company, thinking they were spam. My dad just assumed I'd handle it like always. They never asked. They never had to. The part that hurt, though, was the truck. Everyone used to mock it, said it was old, loud, ugly, but it mattered to him. He'd rebuilt that engine himself back in the 90s, and when I was a kid, I used to ride shotgun to the flea market with him. The smell of oil and dust still reminded me of those Saturdays. And now there I was, sitting in an impound lot, realizing how much invisible work I'd carried for years. That night my mom finally broke the silence. Not a call, not even a voice message. Just a long, passive-aggressive text saying I was hurting the family, that I was burning bridges, and that my grandmother would be ashamed. That part hit hard because my grandmother was the only one who ever saw me, who loved my son without conditions. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and closed the joint education fund I'd set up years ago for the nieces and nephews. The one nobody knew I funded quietly with $50 here and there. I transferred it all into my son's account. He deserved it. Later, I found a small padded envelope in my mailbox, a beaded bracelet with my son's name, one letter missing, and a torn notebook page that said, "I'm sorry. Mom says I can't say that, but I am. Please come to the Christmas play." It was from my niece, the same one who'd laughed at dinner, and I believed her because kids don't fake guilt like that. But I also knew she'd probably snuck it out because her mom didn't want her to reach me. Control, that's what my sister wanted. Except control slips away when people stop depending on you, and they were slipping fast. Especially since I hadn't even touched the thing that really mattered, my signature. Without it, my sister couldn't refinance her mortgage. Her balloon payment was due in 43 days. She assumed I'd forgotten, but I hadn't. I had reminders saved in 3 places, so I waited. By Monday, the silence from her side felt like panic. My brother sent a long message about rebuilding trust. My dad left voicemails saying he missed us, and my mom begged me to think about the kids. But I'd already thought about them, the ones who made my son feel small. Still, that bracelet stayed in my mind. I wasn't cruel, but I was done being their lifeline. Days passed. My sister left gifts on my porch for my son, a hoodie, the exact Lego set he wanted, and finally texted. I think we need to talk. I know things went too far. I need to ask you something. Still no apology, just careful words wrapped around a plea. I said nothing. I wanted her to sit with it, to feel the weight of consequences. Then, 6 days before the deadline, she sent 10 quiet words. If you don't sign, I'll understand. I really will. No guilt, no pressure, just something close to real accountability. I didn't respond. I made lasagna with my son, watched a documentary, listened when he asked, "Are we still mad at those people?" And told him, "No, not anymore." He nodded and said, "I still don't want to go there unless you want to." That was when I realized it wasn't revenge anymore. It was peace. A few days later, my brother showed up, said the family was falling apart, and handed me an envelope. Inside was a homemade invitation in purple marker, family dinner. Everyone says one nice thing, phones off. "Please come back, I miss your hugs," from my niece. This time, she spelled my son's name right. I still didn't answer. 2 days later, my sister's husband texted, "If you ever decide to come, just know we finally get it. And I'm sorry." That night, my son asked to go to the bookstore. We went. He picked a new Lego book. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely free. At the checkout, he turned to me and said, "I think we should go to that dinner. If they mess up again, we'll just leave. But maybe we give them one more chance." I stared at him, not because of what he said, but because of how grown he suddenly sounded. He wasn't doing it for them. He was doing it for me. The day before the deadline, I called the bank. I scheduled the meeting, signed the papers, and didn't tell anyone. I let them sweat for one more day, not out of cruelty, but because I wanted to make sure they didn't confuse forgiveness with permission. Then Saturday came. We arrived at my sister's house just before sunset. I was expecting tension, silence, maybe some awkward small talk. Instead, I walked into something I didn't recognize. The table was full, real food, not just appetizers. There was a printed place card with my son's name on it. 2 gifts sat in front of his chair, one wrapped in newspaper comics, the other with gold ribbon. No one reached for their phones. No one made jokes at anyone's expense. Everyone listened. Everyone spoke once. When it got quiet, my sister stood up. She didn't cry. She didn't perform. She just said, "I forgot who you were. And I forgot that so much of this family was standing because you were holding it up." Then my mom, who hadn't looked me in the eye for 2 years, finally did. She said she was sorry. Sorry for not stopping things when they were small, for letting little disrespect grow into something unforgivable, for forgetting that I wasn't just a helper, I was her daughter. And then, one by one, like they'd all rehearsed it separately, everyone said something true. Not flattering, not dramatic, just real. My son stayed quiet the whole time. At the end, he simply said, "Thank you for the Lego set. It was my favorite one." That was it. That night, we stayed longer than I expected. We left with full hands and lighter hearts. And for the first time in years, when I looked at that table, I didn't feel like a guest at a performance. I felt like someone who finally got to belong. Not because I was useful, but because I was wanted. Because this time, they met me at eye level. And this time, we walked in on our own terms. As we got in the car to leave, my son buckled up, still holding the small card his cousin made him. He didn't say anything until we pulled out of the driveway. Then he looked at me and said, "It felt different this time." And he was right. Something had shifted, not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough to see that the cracks in our family had finally let some light in. And maybe that's how healing really begins, not with grand gestures or dramatic apologies, but with quiet moments where no one pretends anymore. Just honesty, just presence, just people.